Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. Here we are again with another episode of our MindSieves podcast. And today I have a very special guest with me who is Abdullah Al-Andalusi, who has been traveling Pakistan. He's been here for some time now. I did another episode with him from my other platform, Outside the Box. And today we have him here to talk about various topics related to marriage, parenting, and mentorship. So a very warm welcome, Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam. So let's directly dive into the topic. And having taught as a university teacher in Pakistan for over 2 decades now, I have seen the youth evolve, and I've seen the problems of the youth evolve as well. So from me being in university as a student, I still remember that time, not that far away, and today the students, and I get worried at times. So I see a lot of challenges, and I think that those challenges are definitely related to parenting, and we'll come to that. But my question from you would be, what do you think, how much of this Western liberal onslaught is to be blamed for whatever is going on in our educational institutions? So has it to do with the curriculum? Have you heard and felt something since you are here about this?
Well, I haven't really investigated or had that much exposure to teaching university students here in the university setting, and what the university setting is like in Pakistan. Because when I came, it was the end of the academic year, so they were having exams and then shutting down for the summertime, I think. But what I've seen from speaking to people, observing people, and so on, is that I think there is the problem of imitation of the West. And one of the problems in the Muslim world is that because we've forgotten our purpose in life, so we don't have a governing purpose of life and a comprehensive worldview, or what you might call ideology, or Weltanschauung, or whatever term people use, or Deen, because you don't have this governing way of life, which is the basis of all the principles, rules, and laws and values. So what you have is simply a society that exists and just imitates whatever influences affected from the outside, and there are significant ones. I think the Americans and many other European countries heavily lobbied the Pakistani government to have more and more inroads of influencing with culture and the education system of the Muslim world. So what these values are inculcated, and what I noticed was, and actually I did speak to some university students who was telling me about this. So they were medical students at a medical university, and maybe it's NUMS, I think, or if I remember correctly, in Lahore, that they were told that, okay, the doctor's profession, you have this ethical code when examining different genders intimately. It's okay because the doctor isn't a male or a female. The doctor is a doctor, and it's, and then they were telling me that, for example, they were they had a subject. There was a girl, and you had to do a breast examination as a guy, and they were very uncomfortable and refused to do that. And I was discussing this with them, and I said, and the person who's instructed them was very arrogant towards this. Always this like backward thinking you have. Now, he wouldn't criticize Islam, no one could, but what many agnostics or whatever, as you probably know, would do is they would simply just say, oh, this is very backward thinking. This is like almost from the primitive thoughts and so on, unless we get with the times. So I think one of them said, okay, well, then would you mind if you get your sister or daughter or mother here? We do examination then on that. We're just doctors, right? We don't have a gender, so it's fine. Of course, makes a person very angry about this. How dare you? So then if it's not acceptable for them, why acceptable for this other girl you brought? So the idea that we have to imitate the West and imitate what the professions mean in the West, but the professions are defined according to their individualistic worldview, which is about you know, getting whatever your desires dictate your purpose in life. So you're here to obey your desires within a framework. And this is, I think, what's coming into the universities. It's just we're just borrowing what we think we're told to teach the kids, and we haven't checked to see what is the ideological, moral DNA of this curriculum that we're just borrowing wholesale from the West. And of course, it's taught by people who themselves are the education system that was left from the British and left from the French in many other countries, and all left from the British in Egypt, was liberals, or as Lord Cromer put it, the British governor of Egypt, the one who was changing Egypt. He called them agnostics, or Europeanized Muslims, who he said these people are actually agnostics. Because some people say, "Oh, are you takfiring people?" He's takfiring there, right? The British governor in charge of one of the things was the education system and rechanging it. He himself reported the results of what. And this was all based. This is back in the late 19th century, and he published a book called Modern Egypt, published 1919, and I was shocked. So how he described the education system and how it is Europeanizing, that's what the term he used, the people. Of course, you have more local example, Lord Macaulay, who wrote, who was involved in the education system of the British Raj, yes. And he wrote a document called A Minute on Education, where he said that he would create a new class that would rule the natives, who would be brown on the outside, but English with English taste and so on the inside. So I think, in a nutshell, that's what's been happening in the universities.
So if I rephrase the question and ask Sheikh, do you think in a proper Islamic society we'll be able to achieve a lot with the proper educational system, with the right curriculum? Could we really develop people into those men and women Islam demands, or is that like asking for too much?
No, we just need to separate the idea, what is factual knowledge from quote unquote moral knowledge. I use it quote unquote because Western morality is not a knowledge of a true objective morality, it's just their subjective tastes. But it's not knowledge, it's just what they deem to be professionalism. A lot of it involves morals and values which come from the Western mindset, which is currently dominated by individualism. Now, by professionalism for Muslims, we simply mean efficiency, focus, being not distracted in your job and achieving the objective. We would say hikmah, basically. So a person is dictated by hikmah, correct judgment, efficiency, doing the job properly to a very high standard. And one that when you do the job, you won't have to you don't do it halfway, that you have to come back and repair what you did a couple of days later. You do it properly for the long term. So this is with long-term good results, and good being defined by Islam as well. So we can create this. We take the physics, we take the mathematics, the chemistry, and the West did this to us in the 11th century. They just took your math, science, look at this Islamic civilization, you're very powerful. We want to take your technology, we want to take your maths, your science, your astronomy. We don't want your sharia, we don't want your fiqh, we just want this. And so why not do the same? I've often said that we actually have this correct relationship, this correct understanding with China. I asked, does anyone know anything about the culture of Chinese, their worldview, their beliefs and so on? I was like, no, it's like a mystery to them. They're just there. We don't really know much what they believe in. But you take their technology, you even collaborate the state collaborates with them. That's, in a sense, why it's always good to have knowledge of other civilizations. But in one sense, that's a good approach. I wish you had that with the West. All right, as in, we just take your technology, we just take the scientific papers which have shown experiments and the observations of actual experiments that are repeatable and observable.
But when you look at Pakistan, the biggest challenge I see from a parenting perspective is that parents are somehow in awe of the English curriculum, of the English boards. They want to, even if they're not able to afford that their children take those Cambridge and O-level, A-level exams. They really push themselves very hard so that they can do. And I understand it partly because their curriculum and the questions over there involve, like, they are more cognitively challenging as compared to maybe our local ones. But the problem is that when you send your child to such a school, there's a lot of other things which they take up, absorb from the culture. So my question is that these parents, they are at times in a conundrum. So there is no alternative for them. So they see that either we send our children to a madrasa, that's what they think, and or we should then send them to a private school, and then the English should be very good there, and somehow then they unknowingly are distancing their child from the deen as well. So they are not deliberately doing it, but this is happening. What can we as parents or as a society do?
Well, if you understand what I suppose modern universities have been about, so modern universities, or say modern Western universities, usually the anticipation is that the children leave their home, their parents, and they stay in an apartment or a place or student dormitories on campus. That's usually what happens. This separation means they're no longer under the supervision of their parents. And then the university campus has a culture, as they say, meaning they have a certain way of, they have a certain expected thing that students should do. So in some campuses in the UK, I can't speak for Pakistani campuses, but some campuses in the UK, they have obviously the student union building, which has a cafe, a bar at times, a place for dancing and music being played. You have multiple student clubs. Even if you don't want to do the most sports-based activity clubs, there are intellectual clubs. And it's said that, look, you're not going to get the most out of university just by going to classes. That's boring. Right? You have to socialize. But because university is a very intellectualized environment, meaning that students are meant to be well-read and their tastes more involved into literature and reading, they say, okay, well, apart from your classes, there are, in a sense, type of, there are kind of book clubs in a sense where students can say, oh, I want to go to this club and hang out, and they say, oh, have you read this book by this Western thinker, on feminism and things like this. Especially for women. Women tend to read more than men, I've noticed, that in their spare time, and they like to talk about these ideas. So these ideas almost become the basis for socialization. These Western ideas, which are not even if they're not taught, even if they're not taught in the classroom, outside the classroom, on the campus, these Western ideas are the basis for socialism. To be a student, to be cool, you have to be a certain way. So you have to act a certain way. Maybe then have a girlfriend, or Oh, it's boring. You just go to university. You don't maybe get a girlfriend while you're studying, or a boyfriend. So it's the campus culture, as along with, and perhaps quite encouraged by many of the university staff themselves, and you've probably witnessed this as well.
And the curriculum.
As well as the curriculum as well, especially when teaching also subjects which are not based on objective observations of physical reality, i.e. like sociology and psychology. A lot of that involves speculation, with an assumption of what human nature is based on the worldview that was from the West, individualism.
So you must know about the Cambridge curriculum. So many Pakistanis undergo and take the same curriculum. So my question would be, looking at that, do you think that this curriculum has the ability to prepare students for parenthood? Because you are in school, college, university, and then you enter your professional life all of a sudden, and at some stage you get married. And there is no stop in between unless it's from your own household that your parents teach you or do something. There's no way where you would particularly learn how to raise children in an Islamic fashion, and what are the responsibilities, what cultural identity do I need to imbue in them, and all of that. Do you think that this curriculum and this culture, we were talking about the university culture, all of this is enough for someone to acquire those skills?
No, they don't. They don't teach you how to be a parent in university at all whatsoever. In fact, they. I mean, I'm not sure if it's the same in some maybe liberal Pakistani universities, but they actually teach you how to avoid being a parent as much as possible.
And delaying
it's like, but to skirt being a parent, but avoiding it. Well, what I mean is they say practice sex, but safe sex. So use condoms and use whatever bits and things to pills and whatnot. Avoid STDs by using these things. So it's funnily enough, like engage in activities that would normally make someone a parent, but avoid being a parent. So it doesn't actually teach you at all to be a parent, but actually how to avoid it. And a lot of it is setting people up for the idea of a career as well. Like, what's the point of going to university? Is it just intellectual enrichment for no reason? Usually it's anticipation of you going into a career. So of course, many of our sisters that go into university are told that with this knowledge, you're meant to be using this to have a career. Otherwise, you're not worth anything. Your worth is only by how much you can produce under a boss or whatever in society. Your economic your economic output outside the home, because the economy, I mean, the word just means really managing resources, and women manage resources in the home, and in a sense, and funny enough, the Greek word literally means household management, oikonomia, managing the household. That's what it is. That's very funny enough. But the meaning now is what managing resources and trade and all this stuff outside the household.
Right. So what would be your one advice to all the parents listening for their parenting?
I would say, firstly, in the absence of an Islamic education system, homeschooling is one avenue. As for universities, if possible, pick a university where your kids can come back home at the end of class. Ideally, they don't stay on campus; they go for classes. Okay. I mean, even then, there's exposure, but it's not as bad. It's nowhere near as bad as students staying on campus with each other, because then there's a university campus culture that takes over, and in some ways it will affect everybody.
Okay. Moving on to the next topic, which is marriage. I would like to have some advice from you as an Islamic scholar. What do you think what advice should we give to the youngsters searching for a spouse? What are the criteria? What do they need to think about? How to structure this decision and this process?
Well, I'm no Islamic scholar. I'm just a da'i. I just call to Islam and the truth, and I make observations about what we can all see. And sometimes I say I just connect dots that everyone else can see. So the issue is that I think when approaching marriage, one of the things I've found amazing about Islam is, you see, one of the things that leads to incompatible marriages is incompatible or different expectations. If everyone had the exact same expectation, the man expects something from the woman of a certain thing, she understands this expectation before she even comes into the marriage, and she's already accepted it, and likewise she expects things from the man, and the man understands these expectations even before he even encountered her. So they're both on the same page approaching marriage. And this is what Islam offers. It says, here's the expectations of a spouse, of a man and a woman. And also here are the characteristics that define what is a good Muslim man, not just a husband, a good Muslim man and a good Muslim woman. And so when you meet someone, you want to look out for those characteristics. You want to look out for their taqwa. You want to look out for whether they are principled, they stick, they are consistent, they're a consistent person. That they are generally stable. I know life throws all kinds of things at you, but generally speaking, that they are someone which you can depend on them to manage high stressful situations without them breaking the Islamic adab and akhlaq and the requirements. Because I've seen loads of people, everyone, and as I said, you yourself, I've seen people with kids very stressful. It's a very challenging time when raising them up to adulthood and even afterwards. So in those situations, you need to have someone that will maintain Islam. But the reason why they'll maintain it is they're doing it fi sabilillah. They're not doing it for a worldly benefit. They're not doing it because it's just the accepted culture of society. But they're doing it because they genuinely want the pleasure of Allah, and they put Allah's pleasure over themselves. That is ultimately, I know everyone probably says this, but that is ultimately the case, and you do have to check that person for that, because they will be a good lifelong partner.
How can someone check that before marriage?
Well, I mean, I think what has traditionally been the case is usually, you would ask people who know that person and say, what have you seen from this person? The best would be family members, would be people that traveled with that person, would be neighbors and others. What have you seen from this person? How they've acted in different situations?
How much of direct interaction is allowed?
Well, Islam allows you to I suppose in Pakistan you call it a rishta perhaps, but you're allowed to meet this person with a wali or someone designated by the wali who is going to be present. So obviously the conversations are not inappropriate, and you're not left alone, but you can talk to get to know this person and see. But see, that part is to see if you have a type of compatibility. And what I mean by compatibility is, and I think the best way to describe it is, you don't find that person boring, right? And not just, I'm interested because I'm getting to know you. No, that you can genuinely see, I like this person, I don't find boring. Their observations of the world, I'm interested in it. Maybe even I learn from it.
Interesting.
Then it can go the course. If it's someone that, okay, get to know you, and now I got to know you, there's nothing more to know about you, I'm bored now. No, I actually like to see how you see the world, and all the new situations the world brings. I learn something more because you give me a different perspective, and I actually find that perspective interesting. That works very well because you'll never get bored of that person.
And Sheikh, how many of such meetings in the presence of either the wali or a designated
wakil,
yeah. How many of such meetings are permissible and recommended? I understand there is
with
no
the same
number.
person or just with
No, with the same person.
Okay.
For evaluation. So of course it can't go on and on forever. I understand that. But on the other hand, is it just once or is it twice, or is it encouraged? Is it discouraged to have many such meetings?
I mean, I don't like to comment on things where I don't know the fiqh of every madhab on the matter or every scholar on the matter. And so someone might say, why are you giving your fiqh opinion? You're meant to be neutral when it comes to ikhtilaf, which I try to be, generally speaking. But from what I've understood, what usually happens is that if there's incompatible, then it won't go beyond the first meeting.
Okay.
But generally, 2, maybe 3 meetings usually are the case, but that has to be done in tandem with this other surrounding research as well. And also, this depends on if they have the capability or not. If you have a sister, your sister could hang out with the prospective spouse, get to know what she's like, and then advise you. The mother could meet the spouse, because your mother obviously has much more experience with women and is an older woman, and she will know about what young women. She could identify what is called red flag personality traits, as they say. So think creatively within the limits of what is mubah and permissible. How am I going to, in a way, analyze this person? Just make sure they don't have red flags, things which are fatal, you could say, to a marriage, that would lead to divorce, that would lead to, there are going to be slight character flaws. No, we're not ma'soom, of course, but it's just this, can I live with this person? Can I tolerate the character flaws they have? And do I actually find this person interesting? Or at the very least, am I not bored with this person? And then it has that lifelong potential.
How important, in your opinion and understanding, is getting married earlier at an early age? How important is that? And when I ask this question, bear in mind, in cultures like Pakistan, a groom or a groom to be would be starting to earn around the age of 25. So before that, he would actually most commonly be dependent on their own parents. So this is it's a changed reality from the reality of the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So what would you suggest?
Well, I would say that what I've observed is, yes, getting married earlier. If some people's parents, they do support their son to get married and look after his wife, but a lot of other people can't do that, or it's not so easy. So even in those situations, maybe finding someone. I mean, you shouldn't just say, "I'm going to wait till I have enough money in the bank before I begin the search process." You can begin the search process earlier, because that might take. You don't know how long it will take before you find someone that this is the right one, and she also sees the same thing in me in that way. Once you found someone, then you can have an engagement, but it will be important that the engagement is one where there's obviously, okay, you've agreed the family are involved, but to obviously make sure there's a distance there. So, okay, once we've agreed, but okay, now you need to go and work on getting your money and getting your livelihood as a man, and then she'll be waiting for you because she's agreed. And if at some point you both change your minds, then obviously engagement is off. But sometimes knowing someone is there, that okay, I have actually someone specific in mind that I actually am building a career to then support and have children with, helps you stay away from zina.
That's
right? Because you say, well, actually, I have someone in my life, in a sense, not intimately in my life,
Yeah.
but she's got a name, and I know who she's going to be. So I have focus now, right?
In this society, I must say, we have seen more problems because of an engagement than solutions it has provided. So I think that would be very debatable, because
It's true, yes.
as you said, keeping in limits is very difficult given today's society and how common it is to communicate and how easy it is to communicate and everything. So limiting yourself, that's a tough one. And then many cultural family expectations from both sides, and then things end up in disaster. So the general suggestion we give is you should do nikah. The least thing is that you.
I was actually about to say this. In Arabic societies, they have something called kitab, where it is nikah, but the walima is just delayed,
Yes.
and it's looked down upon to not to consummate the nikah until the man is ready to then take the woman into his house.
Yeah.
So it's a nikah which they say allows them to sometimes go out together without being supervised, because technically they are married to each other. And if something does happen, it's not zina.
Yeah.
But culturally, it's looked down upon to obviously for consummation until it's
That's
kind of close to the time of walima, and the person actually has the ability to take her into his house.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we see that marriages are not just getting delayed from both sides. So you talk to the youth today, and I seldom find 20-year-olds or 22, 23 saying that like they feel that they want to get married and they are getting late. Rather, it's more common now for them to say that not yet, even at age 25, both genders, very surprisingly. So when I say surprisingly, because like at my, when I was this age, around 30 years ago, I think each one of my class fellows and friends, and they all had this on mind, they wanted to get married. So I'm really surprised whenever I see the youth and talk to them and they say, no, we want to delay it. And now I think the new normal for marriage age in this youth, even in Pakistan, is close to 30. And that's very, I think that's very dangerous. Like it's dangerous in many ways, but also from the reproductive window concept of women.
Yes,
And
of
everything.
women. Yes, I was literally going to go into that one. That the issue is that the younger the woman gets pregnant, the more survivable the child, the more survivable it is for the woman, the less
Healthier.
risk of complications, less risk of congenital diseases. across the board. Younger the better for women, basically. That's why in generations past, women were married off, 18, 17, even earlier than that. It was always like as soon as she was an adult, according to that society's values, she was married off and to have children at an early age. And it gets to the point where, at young age, and then by the time she's about 30, she'll actually have children who are daughters and sons at teenage age as well. And so she's still young. She can still also both keep up with them and look at and give them advice. At the same time, they're there to help her and make her life easier as well.
How can we change this? I mean, this is really a challenge. How can we change this?
Well, the problem is the education that's interestingly enough, when I was in Peshawar, and we discussed a lot about, I met some brothers there, we discussed a lot about the Swat province, and I know about the Swat province from a few obviously news reports, but one infamous one was the Malala shooting, where it was her father, who had connections with the US embassy and consulate, would, in a sense, I mean, people have said that obviously, let's just say he's that, and he has those connections, and Malala was publicly vocal about criticizing different groups and things, and different, well, I'm not going to go too much into that, but and then she got political, and unfortunately some group that she criticized didn't like that, and allegedly shot her or attempted to shoot her. So this, with the issue of the Swat province, the issue was on education. And so she was saying, oh, women must be educated, and I'm only calling for education. And I say, you're on a school bus. People, like, everyone's educated. All the kids get educated there. I've seen loads of schoolgirls and schoolboys at the end of school. They're all like streaming out everywhere, right? So clearly, yes, everyone's getting educated here. But what many young girls and women, or young women, are taught is that you're not valuable unless you have a career, unless you have a career outside the home that is doing some kind of economic activity and earning your own money. And then also they might say it's best not to depend on men because maybe you get divorced, maybe what have you. So it's also best to depend on yourself. And now this is individualism. This is pure Western individualism. You must depend on yourself. Don't depend on Allah. Although they won't say that, but it's like, when this focus on just depending on yourself, this over focus of it, has that ramification. That's why we see very secular-minded youth, many even atheists and agnostics, because they're told you can just depend on yourself. So then the girls say, okay, well, I will need to get a career, and then maybe after I get a career and I'm successful, then I can have kids. But the more, I mean, in the West that is, the more involved in your career, the less time you have to have children. And okay, many do have children, and then they have to spend money on daycare, which is very expensive in the West, by the way. And
also very detrimental for the development of the child, for the personality development and all of that.
Their connection with the parents as well, primarily, because the parents come back home exhausted. And of course, there's also an economic ramification, which is, let's say you have society that has the same amount of resources, and then you say, okay, the women must work in that society. So you double the workforce, but the resources remain the same. That means everyone's salary then depreciates because there's now an oversupply of workers compared to before. And now in the West, you can't survive with average incomes if it's only one person working now, right? Whereas we know from the 50s and 60s, in America, it was the case. A man would work 8 hours a day, or 7 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, no overtime needed, just that. One guy, one of the household working, and they'd have a big house, kids, wife at home, car, maybe 2 cars. That was what was happening in the 50s and 60s. But then as we saw more women coming to the workplace, that is a dream of the past that seems like it'll never come again in the West. So that's the situation that happens. Women are told you must now need to work, and in order to be independent. And this also then would later on lead to the increase of divorce rate.
So do you think that we can fix this mentality by giving them confidence in the Islamic Aqidah only. I mean, I see that as a solution, as you said. So they need to have the understanding of how life works, how the world works, how much trust you need to have on Allah, how much you need to have on others as well. But the impetus for this individualistic thoughts is very strong, right? And then they also, every now and then, there would be cases and they would see, like a girl would see that another girl, a bride, was like misused, or she was divorced unjustly, and then she would think that this shouldn't happen to me, and therefore I need to first become good at some profession and go to the top in my career, and then I'll get married. So how, again, the forces we need, the forces that are posing a challenge to us or to this kind of lifestyle are very powerful. And it's like I sometimes feel that these arguments are like they sound very weak to the new generation.
Well, the problem is that the new generation aren't taught Islam as their purpose in life. I often say this, that one of the biggest problems in the Muslim world is that Islam is part of our lives. And I just leave it hanging for a bit and like, well, what's going on? What do you mean? You Muslim? Why are you saying Islam's part of our lives is the problem? So yes, it's part of your lives. It isn't your purpose in life. That's the issue there. So they don't see it from that lens. If women, as well as men, were taught that your purpose in life is to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing else has any meaning. Nothing else has any eternal meaning. It will end within the duration of your life, your society, your civilization, planet Earth, and the universe. All those things will come to an end. And anything that you've ever invested into this, solely for its own sake, will be gone in a period of time. Only thing that lasts is Allah's knowledge of the things you've done in His name and what you've done for Him, and the rewards you get from that. And so once they understand this, then they realize, okay, my purpose in life is this, I have to do that. And then a girl growing up would think, okay, so being a housewife, being a mother, raising children and also even the giving birth process, which is like jihad. This is, I can't get any good reward or good deed as much as the things that those would require. However, if there are some women, many, who feel I want to just do something nice for society, I want to help society a little bit as well, because many sisters, they want to do charity work, or they want to help the poor, or do some certain things, or maybe they want to I want to maybe learn medicine because I just want to help sick people and so on and forth. And of course, we need obviously women doctors and so on, so to look after women and patients if it requires intimate examination. Then sure, but not on I must make that my full-time profession and do overtime and do all these kind of things, but rather they say, okay, I have my family and so on and so forth, and where I have the time separate from this, if I have spare time, or initially, especially before kids come, I can do part-time to do charity work, community work, whatever, as I can negotiate and discuss with my husband the feasibility of that. So yeah, sure, there'll be times where that would be an Islamic mentality. They want to help society be fi sabilillah because they have the spare time too, but they also want to be a dutiful wife, get that reward, be an amazing mother, get that abundant reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's very arduous, and so on. And of course, people might say, are you encouraging that women like not only to be housewives, but they have to do some social work too? I'm saying that they kind of do it naturally anyway in any society, because women hang around with women, they go out together in bunches of women. What are they doing, right? They actually give charity. They actually are looking to help their local society, or the local neighborhood even. Yep. They do that anyway, right? It's just natural. So it's not like you must stay only in the house and never come out, but because they tend to come out and to do business and to buy groceries or what have you. So, but the Islamic minded is, I want others' pleasure. That is the mindset we need to instill in the men and the women.
Sorry. You mentioned about divorces, and we have in Pakistan seen rising divorce rates, and that's a problem in itself. Ideally, of course, it would be that the spouses are mentors to each other. But it's generally not always the case. Not everyone is that well versed in Islam, and then also in communication and all those things. So I feel that 30, 40 years ago, there used to be wise people in families, in society. You would go to them to seek advice. And somehow I feel that that concept, I don't know whether those wise people have vanished, and that I should blame myself for that then as well. Or is it that people have lost the ability to identify those people? So my question to you is, what do you think such people, let's call them mentors, right? Murabbi, as they are known in Arabic. So do you think that one way to solve or address this raising divorce rates problem is having mentors in society to whom spouses reach out and take advice from?
I mean, that would possibly help, but we have to look at maybe why divorces happen, and a lot of that is the idea of individualism is that you should depend on yourself and serve yourself as the highest master. Mm-hmm. So in a marriage, usually what happens, especially when kids come, and especially in a lot of modern, some people have said also because modern states, they provide protection, especially in places where there's more guaranteed protection from the state. So the police are more efficient and they are reliable. That when kids come along, the woman who had been given emotionally investing in her husband now has to emotionally invest in the children. Mm-hmm. And of course, the husband still being there and still being around, and of course the marriage being, there's less time together because the children take up a lot of time. This has been reported by so many people I've heard who got divorced. That the woman they become more estranged from each other. Then the woman, especially if she has an income or if an income's being provided to her independent of the possibility of it independent of the husband, is then she'll say, well, all this emotional investment into the kids, it's tiring, and I'm not spending much time with the husband anyway because of all these modern things and my career and so on. So I'm exhausted, and now to have to invest in my husband some energies, that's just too exhausting. I'm too exhausted to do that. So actually, I could actually then just separate from him, and they'd be encouraged. Yeah, you don't need him anymore. You don't need him. Separate from him. Then the divorce court will award his property to the woman, so she's still living on his money, and even staying in his house. I've encountered this many times. Staying in the guy's house, living on his money, but she doesn't. It's no longer dependent on her investing emotional resources into him and intimacy, because she'll get it by law now. It's guaranteed that you'll get it, and you can kick him out, and you don't need him at all. And of course, who will protect you? Well, the state will protect you. The police will protect you. You don't need a male protector, because the policeman is the male protector now. The state is the male protector now. And women are falsely told that your life will be better because you don't have to depend on him, and you're already exhausted by modern society, quote unquote. So this will be better. But then what usually happens is that woman actually discovers that it was actually better with her husband, because yes, it might need some emotional resources, but the husband actually provides emotional resources back. She starts to feel lonely. She starts to feel no one, because the kids are not on her level. They're not her. They're not going to relate to her like her husband would relate to her. As equals. So she starts to feel actually quite alone, empty, and then she discovers that she can't get remarried because it's looked down upon to have baggage from your previous marriage, and so on and so forth. And so this is the situation that you see.
Some of the things you mentioned are not the case for Pakistan. So that the husband would be, let's say, that the woman would have a right to live in that house and things like that.
Oh, I was surprised in my whole trip in Pakistan. It's been a learning adventure in more ways than one. Just to see all the kind of chaos and things that I've seen, and brothers have been telling me. I met brothers who was telling me that the courts in Pakistan say, okay, this is a woman. The kids go to her, and she has a right to stay in the house that she stayed in before, and the man must stay out. So that's his house, and yes, they don't give her ownership, but she can stay there rent free, and he must leave and rent a house or somewhere else.
That's new for me. Okay, so well, thank you very much, Sheikh, for being here, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our listeners benefit from this conversation. So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barakallahu
Assalamu
feek.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.